Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We have a special shir this morning in honor of Tu B'Av. Today's shir and breakfast is dedicated by our dear friend Rabbi David Halevi Levi in honor of Tu B'Av, which is the yahrzeit of his father's grandmother, Rosa Cohen, whose yahrzeit is Tu B'Av, Rosa Bat Rab Shmuel, whose yahrzeit is Tu B'Av, and also in honor of Rab David's new sefer, David HaMelech, with a beautiful mosaic of King David from the synagogue in Gaza. And we wish Rab David Mazel Tov on his 51st publication. And Be'ezus Hashem should be zoiche to have at least Einoi Doime Mishashayna Perkei Mea Panim L'Mea V'Achas. So this should be just the midway point. And you should have many happy and healthy, productive years. And Yibon Hashem should mevarach you, Shefa Bracha V'Atzlacha, V'Imali Hashem Kol Mashal Libcha L'Tova. Thank you, Reb Gordon Halevi, for picking up the breakfast. Okay, Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av has become a day dedicated to being mispalel and focusing on Shidduchim. So first, let's just give a little background to try to explain why that is. The Mishnah at the end of Masechta Taanis says, Amar Hashem Gamliel, Lo hayu yamim tovim liYisrael kechamisha asar ba'av u'kiyom HaKippurim. There were no more festive days for the Jewish people than the 15th of Av and like Yom Kippur. So Gemara says, I understand Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day of Slicha Mechila. It's the day that the second Luchos were given. But what's so special about Tu B'Av? And the Gemara gives a number of different explanations. Number one, it's the day the Shvatim were allowed to marry into each other. We know because of the story of the Bnei Slavchad, they made a takana not to marry one shevet into another. From here on, the Shvatim were allowed to marry into each other. Or, according to Rav Yosef, Shevet Binyamin was mutter lavai b'kahal after the episode of Pilegesh Begiva. Because of the story Pilegesh Begiva, they sort of condemned Shevet Binyamin. So just off the bat, you see historically there's something etched into the day that on this day, new Shidduchim were allowed. So the Shvatim were allowed to marry back into each other, or they were allowed to marry the Shevet Binyamin. Or Rabba Bar Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, it's the day that the Meisei Midbar stopped dying. It's the day that the Meisei Midbar stopped dying. So you say that explanation for Tu B'Av does not seem to have any connection to marriage. So let's develop this. What happened when the Meisei Midbar stopped dying? The pasuk says, "Vayidaber Hashem Elai, Elai Haya Hadibor." Right, because we know that Moshe Rabbeinu lost a certain level of divine communication because of the Meisei Hamidbar. Because the Meisei Hamidbar were in Cherem, Hashem did not speak to Moshe Rabbeinu intimately. From Tu B'Av and on, Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu. Rashi says, until then it was only Bechizaya in Laila. It was Begimgum. And now it is Peh El Peh Beyichud V'chiba. So you could say that from Tu B'Av and on, there was a reunited union between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Because again, Tu B'Av is the day designated for union. So even according to Rabbi Yochanan that the Meisei Midbar stopped dying, this is also reflective of a day appropriate for Shidduchim. Or Hoshea ben Elah abolished the sentries that Yeravim ben Nevat put on the roads to prevent Klal Yisrael from being Oilei Regel, and now Klal Yisrael could go up to Yerushalayim. So Yerushalayim is like our wife in a way, you know. Yerushalayim is like a jealous co-wife. The Chassam Sofer writes, you know, the earthquakes in Tzfas were caused by the jealousy of Yerushalayim. So when Klal Yisrael goes and they're Oilei Regel to Yerushalayim, that's also a union of sorts. It's also like Zivug, we're coming back to Yerushalayim. Or Rav Masna said, the Harugei Beitar were buried. Could explain. Some Sefer writes in the Tshuva that on a person's yard site, the neshama has like a wedding with its creator in heaven. But we know the neshama does not rise completely until the day of Kvura. Okay. Then the Gemara says it's the day they stopped cutting wood for the ma'aracha. So what? So what? They stopped cutting wood for the ma'aracha. So now Rabbeinu Gershom says there's more time to learn. Now when you learn, learning is a marriage. So it's also a zivig of sorts. Okay, in any event, Tu B'Av is dedicated for Shidduchim. I have a sefer called Siach Shidduch. Last year, we learned from here 10 skulos to get your zivug fast. Maybe we're going to review that sometime, but I want to share with you, this is the hashkafa of Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky and other gedolim on Shidduchim. One important thing, as divrei chizuk, for those awaiting their zivug, many people, they're awaiting their zivug, they look around, and other boys in their class or other girls in their seminary, they went quicker than they did, and sometimes people start to think, okay, so what's wrong with me? You know, what's my issue? Is it my personality? Do I need to lose weight? Is it, what do I need to do? What's my problem? Why am I not going? And Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, chas v'shalom, to do that. We have emunah shlema that whatever happens to us in this world is gzer min hashamayim. One should not attribute any physical reason, any natural reason for why some go quicker and some go slower. Now he says it's obvious, but especially when it comes to Shidduchim, people fall into the trap of thinking, okay, so what's wrong with me? A person should have emunah shlema. Right now, it's a gezer min hashamayim l'toivasam, for their benefit. Now, does that mean they shouldn't do hishtadlus? Of course they should do hishtadlus. Should they go to a dating coach? They should go to a dating coach. Should they lose weight? They should lose. Whatever the physical things are usually done, should be done. But not chas v'shalom to think that that's the reason. In other words, of course, you should make every possible hishtadlus, but not to think that this is the reason why this happened. One should not feel in any way inadequate or that there's any issue at all with them. You have some people who one would objectively say they're the most undesirable and they go right away. And you have some people who you would objectively say they have all the goods, and for whatever reason it doesn't happen right away. So of course a person should try to fulfill all the various hishtadlos. Nevertheless, one should not attribute it to that. So I want to share with you Shailus Uchuvos from Reb Chaim Kanievsky about the inyan of zivugim. You know what? We'll play a little game. Okay? I'll ask you the question, and let's see what you say. And then we'll hear what Reb Chaim says. Okay? Here we go. The Gemara in Soita says on Daf Beis, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Arba'am Yom Kodim Yitzias Havlad, 40 days before a person's creation, before a person's really formation. Bas kol yoitzeis va'oimeres, bas ploini leploini. So they asked Reb Chaim, so why should you daven for a shidduch? If there's anything in this world that's preordained, it's your zivug. So they announce bas ploini leploini. In other words, every boy has their designated girl. So why daven? What's the tachas of davening? What do you say? Dun dun. Ein mashgichim v'laskal. We don't. You're right. We don't pay attention to it. Meaning, if it says Ruvain to Leah, that Ruvain doesn't have to go marry Leah, but it's still Ruvain. Isn't Ruvain designated for someone? So I would say simply, of course, Ruvain is designated for Leah, but it doesn't mean Ruvain will be smart enough to tell the shadchan, yes, Ruvain may be dumb and call the shadchan, no, I don't like this girl. Why not? I don't know, because my friend told me that, that there's a better one down the block.
The rough set of
so
Right.
So, the bas kol said Ruvain to Leah, but the guy was a fool. So you have to daven that you do the right thing. Another thing is, right, Rav Miller has a famous yesod that Hashem decrees that Ruvain should be for Leah, but nevertheless, nothing could come to completion unless you daven.
It's two separate things.
Hashem decrees, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's carried to fruition. Says Reb Chaim, yes, it's true, bas ploni leploni, but maybe it means Ruvain will marry Leah when Ruvain is 73 and Leah is 69. So therefore you need to daven that he should marry her when he is Shmona Esrei l'chuppah and she's 15 and a half. Okay. Next question. The Gemara says in Baba Kama, anyone who's mavakish rachamim on his friend and you need that thing, you're answered first. Right? That's a klal. Anyone who's mavakish rachamim for his friend. So in other words, if let's say a person needs parnasa, so they should daven for ploni who needs parnasa, and Hashem will answer them before ploni. Now, the question is, let's say a person davens for their friend, that Hashem, I want my friend to get married before me. Who will get married first? Let's say you daven Hashem, Ruvain needs a shech, I need a shech, and Ruvain needs a shech. And let's say you daven, Ruvain should get married first. What will happen first? Says Reb Chaim, you'll get married first. Okay? Next. Let's say you're davening for you and your friend. Let's say you need a refuah. So you're davening, Hashem heal me, and heal ploni. When you daven, who should you daven for first? Should you first daven for yourself, or should you first daven for ploni? Say, Hashem, send a refuah or shidduch for, let's say the person's name is Leah. So that should Leah say, Hashem, send a shidduch for Rivka, and then for me, Leah, or should they say, for Leah, me, and then Rivka? I think I made a mistake about this. Says Reb Chaim, you always daven for yourself first. Chayecha koidem. It's a halacha. You always daven for yourself first. Let's say a person needs a shidduch or a parnasa. Which tefillah is more effective? A tefillah that they offer for themselves, or to go to the Gadol Hadar and the Gadol should daven for them? So now we're not asking, should you go to Gadol Hadar? Yeah, why not? Can't hurt. But which tefillah is more effective? Your own tefillah for yourself, or the Gadol Hadar's tefillah for you? So Avada, your own tefillah for yourself is more effective than the Gadol Hadar's tefillah. Let's say you have an average bacher. He doesn't learn so well, and therefore he's getting mediocre suggestions. Is it nigzar min hashamayim that he should marry a mediocre shidduch? Says Reb Chaim, b'chlal not. He should daven so that even though he's mediocre, he should get a very good shidduch. Let's say you want to marry ploni. Let's say you want to marry a specific girl. Could you daven, God, I want to marry her? No. Ayin moed katan yud chesam adveiz. You should only daven that the shidduch that's nigzol min hashamayim should come quickly. Never daven to marry something specific.
Are they going to grow in
I guess, they could get people, they could look better, they could get smarter.
by davening for a better one, and that's davening for them.
I guess. Okay. Let's say I know a certain boy, a guy in the shul. He sits in the sixth row in the third seat. And I have a relative that I think would be just perfect for this guy. Am I allowed to daven that this guy should marry my cousin? It's an avera to daven that way. It's a sakana. Don't pray that any two people should get together. You just pray that this person should find their zivug that's destined for them. Next question. You have two sisters who are older, and their friends got together and they're making a challah bake for them, or they want to gather together and be mechazek for their zchus so that these two girls should get married. What should they be makabel upon themselves in their merit? You should be mechazek in tefillah, says Rabbi Chaim. Okay. Where is it better to dam for shidduch? In Shema Koleinu or after Yilu L'Ratzain? Says Rabbi Chaim, bakashos are always best in Elokai Netzar. So they asked, do you mean at the end of Elokai Netzar, before Yilu L'Ratzain? So Rabbi Chaim says before Yilu L'Ratzain. Now, which Yilu L'Ratzain? Many people say, I say Yilu L'Ratzain before Elokai Netzar, because sometimes I have to answer Kedusha then. But it seems like once you say Yilu L'Ratzain, you're sort of severing your personal bakashas. It's better if you have personal bakashas to say them in Elokai Netzar before Yilu L'Ratzain. Parents are asking, we're not getting, a daughter's not getting dates. What should we do? You should daven in Elokai Netzar, and you should say it with your mouth and not just think it. When you daven, you should say it, don't just think it. Next question. At what age should you start davening for your children for their Shidduchim? Here, I'm giving you a few choices. When they get into seminary, when they get home from seminary, by their bas mitzvah, Reb Chaim says, a parent has to start davening when they're born. As soon as they're born. A bacher is a bar mitzvah boy. Should he start davening for his shidduch, or he shouldn't worry about these things until he's in the parsha? Says Reb Chaim, he should daven for his shidduch from his bar mitzvah. Someone who his shidduch is taking a long time and he davens and he's not answered, what should he do? So Chaim, he should daven again. Like the Gemara says, Imra Adam shespalo v'loinena yachzar v'yispalo shenemar kaveh al Hashem chazak v'yamid tzibecha v'kaveh al Hashem. When you daven for a shidduch, should you daven that it should come easy or that it should come quick? So you don't daven that it should come easy. It doesn't come easy. The Gemara says it's kasha. So don't daven that it should come easy. Daven that it should come quick. What's better if you want to daven by the kever of your father or by the Kaisah Maravi? So Reb Chaim, the Kaisah Maravi. The Gemara says, Kasha zivugay shel adam kekriyas yamsuf. What's kasha? How can anything be hard for Hashem? Aren't things for Hashem easy? Says, just like kriyas yamsuf, there are a lot of makatrigim. So too by zivugim, there are a lot of makatrigim. Okay, this is a good one. You go out with a girl 9 times. And then you say, no, she's not for me. Do you have to ask for mechila? Is there any hakpada? Do you have to be worried she'll be makbid? No. No. If you don't want to marry her, this is not the shidduch, that's nigzar min hashamayim. Mashal Maggid Harakiah. Ruvain met his friend in the street, and he said, are you Shemain? So, Shimon? Name's Levi. So now what? Reuven has to ask Mechila. He has to be worried. Reuven has to be worried that Shimon's makbid, that he's not Shimon. It's the wrong person. Should you ask the shadchan to ask the girl for Mechila? No. Or let's say the girl dumps him after 10 dates. No, the girl doesn't have to ask for Mechila. Let's say you know that your neighbor, every time they call your neighbor, the neighbor is interfering with the shidduch. Should you do anything about it? Says Reb Chaim, "I efshar lekalkel shidduch, ma shenigzar min hashamayim yeh, rak shelo higia hazman." I'm not sure that we're on that madrega, not to do anything. If you know that your neighbor is ruining every shidduch, could be that on our madrega we should put a different neighbor on the resume. Okay, now this is an interesting one. They bring in the name of the Gra in Yahel Ar that when it comes to Shidduchim you should have bitachon, and hishtadlos is not worth anything. It's not like work. Work, you're not going to make money if you don't do hishtadlos. They bring in the name of the Gra that when it comes to Shidduchim you should have bitachon Hashem. Rav Shlomo Zalman said that what does the Gra mean? Can't mean that you don't have to do any hishtadlos. Look, even Yaakov Avinu did hishtadlos. He didn't do a lot of hishtadlos, like he just showed up at a well and all of a sudden, the shidduch came. So what does the Gra mean that when it comes to shidduchim you should have bitachon? Rav Shlomo Zalman meant not that you don't do any hishtadlos, less hishtadlos is required than other things. Is that how Reb Chaim, is that how you understand the Gra? Says Reb Chaim, yes. Now this is a general question. His son or daughter did not get into the yeshiva or the Beis Yaakov, that's the elite school. Should the parents try to push the kid into the school because it will be better for shidduchim? What do you think Reb Chaim would say? No. It could be, he says, by going to the other yeshiva, they'll get a better shidduch. You have a girl named Yenta, and she reached the age of shidduchim, and you're worried that maybe her name will not be the most appealing name. Should you have her name changed or a name added to her name? Says Chaim, you could add to her name. I will end with this. A boy meets a girl and he wants to know, how can I know and have bitachon that she is my shidduch? Says Reb Chaim, when you get engaged to her, then you'll know that she is your shidduch. Until then, it's impossible to know. But once you say, I want to marry you, then you could know that she is the shidduch designated for you, min hashamayim. Like people would ask Reb Miller, how do I know I got my bashert? So Miller said, Al Pi the Gemara, you can marry 18 girls. So he says, she's definitely one of the 18 bashert that you were supposed to marry. Of course she's bashert. In all probabilities, she's definitely one of the 18. Anyway, so on this day, Rebbe Shalom should send all Yidden, their Ziva Kagon, b'mehera, and they should be Zoicha Livnois, Bate Ne'amanim B'Yisrael. Right.